Well, welcome to the University of Badassery podcast. This is CJ Ortiz. I'm the Metal Motivator, joined once again by the fire-breathing professor of ass kickery, toxic masculinity. I could go on and on and on and on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Heavy Metal McNamara once again.
All right, rock and roll, baby. Thanks for that intro, bro. It's freaking ridiculous. I love it.
I'm being lazy because I should be writing custom ones every episode.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what the hell, man?
Well, here's the
now
thing,
that I
dude,
think of it.
is, people, in fact, I got a message this morning, dude. We should commit to reading the testimonies that we get, the likes and the comments that people write into this podcast. Mm-hmm. But again, once again, somebody said right off the bat, you're the dynamic, the chemistry between the two of you. Well, but you can get comfortable with something like that. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things that people will appreciate and would not appreciate is either respect or disrespect for one another. And when I get in here, ladies and gentlemen, for the two ladies that are out there and the rest of you gentlemen, we're like an overkill show. Bobby Blitz used to say that what has two breasts and 2,000 legs? He said an overkill show.
Oh, yeah, right.
But yeah, when I come on here and do these things, introduce Mac, it is not just for grins and giggles, ladies and gentlemen. It is the sincerity. It is what the office deserves. Some of you might remember a friend of mine used to say a long time ago, dude, there's certain presidents I don't like, but if I meet them, I will shake their hand because you have to respect the office. Right?
Yeah, man, 100%.
But when you can respect the office and the person, doubly good.
Right.
So in our case, I respect Mac, both the office and the person, so the position that he holds. And
likewise, my man.
So just like, but we want to have fun doing this. And it's just cooler, man. Mac doesn't want me to treat him like he's Billy Badass. He knows he's Billy Badass. He wants it to be fun. We want this thing to be fun.
Right.
But anyway, here we are, episode 11, Pat McNamara. We're doing this from a distance this time because we are both on Coronacation and the nation under coronavirus, and this is our Coronacast. And could be a very new season there's a lot of news here. We're going to tell them all. We got so much freaking news to tell them about. First of all, would you mind doing me a favor, man, and start off with the sponsors of the University of?
Yeah, so two of them, right? So, man, Taconic, right? Taconic Distillery. Dude, I'm a bourbon guy, and I will stand by this statement. My favorite bourbon. I get a lot of write-ins. Hey, I know you drink bourbon. What can you recommend? Now I have some go-tos because I can't get this everywhere. But I always tell them, please look this up. And I've had several guys ping me back and say, yep, ordered it, found it here, whatever. And those bourbon guys agreed with me.
Yeah.
And they weren't, they're not blowing smoke up my ass. They're bourbon guys. And if you're a bourbon guy, damn, man, that stuff is good.
Well, my son, Joe, and Joe, I started to notice bottles missing.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. Yeah. As long as he's not slamming shots of it, bro, it's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to amateur drink that stuff.
No.
And then the other, of course, our friends at RAA, Rogue American Apparel, and Invader Coffee, Wes. So Invader Coffee, one of our sponsors, stuff's freaking awesome, veteran-owned business. And this is my own blend right here, the Blaze Ops blend. But damn, man. I mean, it's about the little things in life.
Yeah, it is.
And I get asked a lot, hey, what would you rather give up, coffee or beer? That's a tough one for me,
Yeah, it would be beer.
Yeah, I think I'd have to give up. Yeah, I think I'd have to give up beer. Swear to God, because, dude, I love my coffee.
He hit me up. Wes hit me up the other day, and he said, "Hey, bro, you need a restock." Yep. I mean, he is the sponsor, right? And so usually when they send it out, they'll send a variety of stuff. And I told him, I said, dude, make it easy. Just send me Blaze Ops Blend. That's my shit right there. Blaze Ops Blend is then that's Max Blend for those of you who might be new to the podcast, the T-Max Inc. Blaze Ops Blend.
Yep.
So again, and that's invadercoffee.com, Taconic Distillery, coronacast.com. And so thank you so much to our show sponsors. Anyway, Mac and I are doing this podcast remotely. Mac now has his own audio setup, professional audio setup. For those of you who are watching by YouTube, you can see how amazing his home studio is now. And that's good news, Mac, because you do a hell of a lot of podcast interviews.
Yep. And now I could rock this. Yes. So
dude, we just upgraded everybody's show.
Yeah.
Everybody just got
an upgrade.
A Mac 2.0 upgrade.
Hell yeah.
Thanks to the University of Badassery. Well, Mac, you've been burning up the podcast world, and I want to talk a little bit here in a second about well, you know what? We've got so much stuff that's intertwining. Our roads are crossing, so it's hard to know where to begin. We want to get into the hardcore stuff of the virus and what we're both doing and how this is going to change things in the future. But Mac, I've heard some of the interviews you've done lately, and you have been talking about this. We want to go deep into that, but I do want to say at the outset here, the biggest game changer right now is going to be what happens with you moving forward. So how do you want to address that? Do you want to go into the whole Coronacation thing first, or do you want to go into what the big significant change is going to be in your business? You've already kind of leaked it.
Let's go into Coronacation first.
Okay.
So when did we start this? Middle of March? Latter part of March, right?
Yeah.
Right after, it was directly after St. Patrick's Day. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, directly after, or right at St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Or just before. Either way. So we've been in it more than a month, and I've been ready for this thing. Yeah. I've been ready for it. I mean, people scrambled and people fretted, and I sat back and watched and went, you know what, man, how many years have I been putting out PSAs on the necessity to be prepared for shit like this?
Yeah.
So it wasn't on my part lack of trying, because, and a lot of people, they took that advice to heart and they had some prep stuff. But, in my day-to-day, week-to-week activities, I jump through my ass. I am freaking going. So I look at this. For me, this is one of the best vacations I've ever been on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm busier than hell. I'm busy from when I get up in the morning till I go to bed at night. And I'm not making money, but I'm super, super busy. And I'm having the best time. A lot of it is just me being busy because I have shit to do, chores. And I'm backed up years on chores. There's stuff I haven't taken care of that is on my whiteboard, that I know I need to take care of, but now I have the time. There's hobbies that I've been rekindling. There's a lot of this stuff. People ask if I'll do a podcast. I'm like, hell yeah, bro. When do you want me? Because my whole week is free.
Right.
So I just put those slots on the whiteboard. I jot them down. Financially, I've prepped for that too. I could pay bills for the next couple of months. And I hate it for the people who can't, people who live from like paycheck to paycheck. I freaking hate it for them, because I know it's got to be painful. But, but don't let this bite you in the ass again. Have that emergency fund in the event shit goes south and you need to rely on, that savings or whatever to pay the bills for the next couple of months, or put food on your table. Because I learned about that, in 2013, there was this thing called sequestration.
Right.
And during sequestration, I lost 6 months of freaking work, bro.
Damn.
And I ran up credit card debt like you wouldn't believe. And I said, never again. So I started stockpiling. I've got an emergency account just for this. And I'm good. We could be in lockdown for the next 4 months, which, I hope it's not like that, but I could pay bills for the next several months and be completely comfortable. And the other thing, I'm sorry, I know I keep rambling here. This is a great opportunity for self-improvement.
Yep.
Let's say rekindling your hobbies or spending quality time with your family, doing stuff with your family that you would not necessarily do before. It could be as simple as learn how to cook or till up a garden in the backyard, or be creative and clean your freaking garage, that hasn't been cleaned in forever, or get rid of stuff that you've had accumulating, all that freaking crap that you could put into bags to take to Goodwill later. It's a good time for that. because like a lot of us, we don't have disposable time. I fielded a note yesterday. Somebody pinged me on because I did a Sunday Sentinel sermon on Coronacation. And a guy wrote back, well, some of us are still freaking working. You were at the front lines. And I'm like, bro, consider yourself lucky, man. You got a job. You're still making money, and you're not locked in your freaking house. So that's not a legitimate bitch, bro.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I know that like first responders and hospitals and stuff are working, 15, 16-hour days back to back to back to back to back. And they're dressed up like astronauts. Right. And that shit sucks. But, like I look at the garbage man who came by today and I'm like, hell yeah, bro. Yeah. That is definitely.
It's a good gig.
Yeah. Essential. They're essential. Yeah. They're working outside and they're getting their paycheck, and kudos, man. I'm happy that they're there to take my garbage out.
Yeah.
Kudos to all those essential people, but don't forget, man, a lot of people are sucking out there. I jest at Coronacation. For me, it's Coronacation. Right. But for a lot of people, it's,
it's Corona suck.
Yeah, bro, they're hurting, and I get that, man.
Yeah.
So I feel for you.
Yeah, and that's, again, there's so much that, and we'll probably try to say it all today, but there's so much that we can address in this. I've had the similar experiences. I had somebody just the other day, actually it was yesterday, was talking about, he said, what about the coronavirus? And it was on a post I was talking about something, a big board or whatever. And I said, well, what about it? And he said, well, I'm out of work and the things that I'm interested in, doesn't seem to be any opportunity there. And my dad's kind of in the same situation. And I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean exactly? Are you saying it's hopeless? Are you saying there's no solution? Are you saying, why are you online voicing this? In other words,
all right. Mm-hmm.
Instead of working on the problem, because if you're saying it is hopeless and impossible, okay, then you're reaching out for help.
Yeah, right.
But if you're just telling me it's difficult, if that's all you're saying, then you just realize the main problem in your life that's going to haunt you now and in the upcoming season, however your situation begins. You've got to make a fundamental change in you right now. And so what Mac just said about self-improvement is absolutely huge.
Yep.
Because people right now, for example, that are suffering from this virus, and this comes from New York City, guys. This is from the epicenter here in the States where this thing is hitting. The majority of the cases are with people who are obese. The majority.
Not necessarily the majority of cases, but the majority of fatalities.
Fatalities are from people who are obese.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So people are now at home, not preparing vocationally for the next season, right? And staying at home eating crap food.
Yep.
Ergo, or therefore, we can anticipate that they will tax the system once all this passes. They will continue to be a burden on the economy financially. They will continue to be a burden on it medically, because Corona didn't get you this time, but diabetes is going to get you.
Yep.
Alzheimer's is going to get you. Heart disease is going to get you. These other things are going to get you because you are not getting the simple clarion call that you should be getting right now. This should be an arrest, just like after 9/11 was an arrest on our system, a traumatic event to shock everybody into, hey, it's over. I mean, I remember right after 9/11, Mac, I was at a client's place, and this is probably a day or so after. So everybody's head is soaked in headline news. You know what I mean? And we're reeling. And I was sitting there, and he's actually he was a minister, and so he had dealt with like grief counseling and stuff. So I was sitting there, we're talking. I just said, his name is Steve. I said, Steve, I don't know, man. Something is just bothering me. It's just a sadness that I can't. He said, you're grieving.
Yep.
I said, what do you mean I'm grieving? He said, you're grieving. You're grieving. Those are all the symptoms of grief. So I had to go home and think about, what was I grieving? It wasn't just the loss of the lives of those people. That was tragic enough. There was something much, much deeper. I knew what it was. What I had imagined America was protected by two shores. You know what I mean? Untouchable. We've never had a real long-standing war on our soil. All of the things that make America, that was shattered. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It was the loss of what I knew. And for a lot of people, they need to go through that, the loss of what they know. Mm-hmm. Because if there's a Bible verse that says, you can either fall upon the rock and be broken, or the rock will fall on you and crush you to powder. Mm. You can either take this time to say, you know what, I throw myself on the mercy of the court. I have not been getting myself ready for this financially, vocationally, health-wise, dealing with boredom and all of the sort of stuff. Guilty. I'm not going to defend myself. I was taken in by the sirens of luxury and ease. I can turn on light switches and set the temperature in my house and pull food out of an ice box and drive through and talk to people on a little gadget. I'm spoiled. Even though I was living paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes I have been spoiled. I live richer than any civilization before me. I was taken in, so I wasn't prepared. You throw yourself on that, throw yourself on the rock and be broken, man. Broken means to be without excuse, without, you know what I mean? You're just like, I'm just broken. I'm a broken man. I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm not trying to make excuses. None of that stuff. If you don't, that same rock is going to fall on you and crush you to powder. And a lot of people are being crushed to powder right now because they weren't ready. It's amazing. I posted this a little while ago. You talk about getting ready for this thing. Dude, I have worked out of home since 1992.
Yeah.
My kids were homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My daughter is about to finish this year her bachelor's degree, also at home. I've had a home gym my whole adult life. I even led a home church. I used to remark to people all the time, people haven't lived this way since the 19th century.
Right.
You know, I bought a car. You know my car. I bought the car in July of 2018, still under 7,000 miles on it.
Right.
A traffic jam is 3 cars deep on a 4-way stop.
Mm-hmm.
I have no concept. And for me to fill my tank more than once a month would be weird. I would feel like the financial straits. So it's like, yeah, I mean, so to me, there wasn't a beat change. There wasn't any, if anything, everything escalated because my business is I solve problems for people who are in business. So they're all scrambling to keep their business. So they're hitting me up left and right, which means everything went through the roof. But then I decided also at the same time to change things because you and I are going to get into some other stuff, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. To change, everybody's having to change. Everybody has to adapt. Everybody has to overcome. But are they willing?
Right.
I mean, how many times, dude, have you seen the word bored online?
Yep.
By adults.
Right. By adults. Dude, man, I don't get that because I am living large right now. No, really. To expand on a couple of your points. One is, it's horrible. There are 40,000, I think we're up to now. Fatalities.
Yeah.
40,000.
Yep.
And most have pre-existing conditions. And I don't mean I'm taking a bad and making it a good, that self-realization thing.
Right.
So it's bad. It's horrible. But most of those pre-existing conditions, like you said, are self-perpetuated.
Yeah.
Obesity and respiratory problems. A lot of respiratory problems are self-perpetuated.
Right.
Aging, you could do that's not self-perpetuated. You can't freaking reverse the clock.
Right.
But yeah, man, when you look at the stats of who's dying from this, it's pre-existing conditions that are self-fucking perpetuated, man. Damn it.
Yeah. People, a lot of this is self-imposed. And so, like I take vitamins, I take trace minerals, fresh vegetables every day. I know you're doing that stuff every day. Yep. So, we do things when we say we do things to stay healthy, a strong immune system is a big part of that,
Mm-hmm.
And I was already, we've talked about this before. I was already wiping down my cart when I went into a store. I don't touch things, and I always try to wash my hands, and that's just for the common flu. So like you mentioned, being the numbers of 40,000, that's a typical flu season. Mm-hmm. I mean, those numbers. So it only sounds bad because now we're looking at it.
Right.
Now we're seeing it, but this doesn't count all the other illnesses and diseases and things that are killing people in this country every year that we could do something about, whether it's smoking or what have you. But the world doesn't stop because of that. And that brings up kind of an important point, because as we go forward, Mac, I mean, we know society is going to be changed. People are going to become more germaphobes, but there are businesses that are being changed. I was reading an article earlier about gyms, how gyms are facing, I think 24-hour fitness is facing potential bankruptcy. A lot of these big warehouse size commercial gyms, 24-hour type Gold's Gym shut down several branches because going forward, it's like, what commercial bank is going to loan money to something that's at risk?
Yeah,
now.
right.
You know what I mean? It's like, in other words, it's like building your home in a flood zone. Your insurance is probably going to be more expensive.
Yep.
Things are going to change. Home gyms are going to go through the roof.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Try and find weights somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yep. Think of how much one of the difficult things to sell is your old equipment and stuff. Yes, you got guys selling rusty weights on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Craigslist or something like that. And that shit will be there for like months on end. You can't find anything now because I don't know what bodybuilders are doing.
Right.
Fitness models.
And I'm having no problem with that. My home gym is rocking. You've seen pictures I've been posting online. Man, it's rocking. And all it takes is a little creativity, a little imagination. And speaking of that, something I talked about on my other the other podcasts I've done when we talked about this self-quarantine thing. Not only is it a good time for self-improvement, but I'm an optimist, man. I'm not a freaking pessimist. I'm not one of those freaking douchebags who is a woe is me kind of guy. I honestly believe that we are going to come out better because of this.
Good.
And I think that we're going to see shit like diseases being cured and stuff because people are forced to think right now. You're in lockdown. Like, I know my gears are turning constantly during this because I'm not thinking about what plane I need to catch, what rental car agency I need to go to, where's my hotel, who's my range host, and memorizing people's names in classes, which I do every freaking week. So the gears are in motion. And I think that a lot of people are doing the same thing. They're forced to be creative, to use their imagination, to improvise, stuff like that. And a lot of people, that's human to do that stuff, but we relinquish that because we're so connected that we're disconnected. Right. So now people are having to go back to that and use that creativity, imagination, their people skills, their ability to make something out of nothing, all those kind of things. So I think that we're going to come out. I think we're going to be a lot better after this,
Max, so expand a little bit on that just so that people understand what the nature of your life was like coming up to this. Because again, I keep saying we're going to mention this thing here. But last year, I remember you and I having a conversation. You were telling me, dude, it's wearing on me, man. The traveling and stuff is wearing on me. And so we were talking about doing some other things to kind of alleviate that. But the big problem was, as you said, you have minutes, not hours. How do you say that?
Yeah. I have actually I say I have seconds, not minutes.
Right.
Really, I have, like when people want to field a call or something, I say, hey, let me put you on the whiteboard. I'm going to put you on my calendar, on my whiteboard, and let's do this call, but don't freaking be late for that call because I've got a lot of shit going on during the day. So we talked actually in 2018 about slowing down in 2019. Right. I did not do that. So in 2019, I started drawing up my calendar for 2020 early on, and I kept it light. Kept it light, and now it's super light. But by the end of 19, I was wiped out. Imagine 4 courses a month. A lot of them I'm flying to. So on a plane at least twice a month, sometimes four times a month, dragging all your shit, your gun boxes and all your freaking range crap. Airport, driving to the airport, getting on a plane, checking all that stuff in, receiving end, getting that rental car, going to hotel, driving to the range, getting to the range next morning. And then the wheels on the bus just go round and round because after that course, I'll have 4 days to recock, to answer all the emails, to do all the fulfillment, to answer all the social stuff, to clean my gear, to do the chores that need to be done in the house. And it just backs up. Right. I'm never in the black as far as work goes, ever, So now I find myself like, damn, man, I am catching up.
Right.
I'm not yet, but however long this lasts, let's say a couple more weeks, I'll be caught up, at the end of this. So I'm looking at this thing as, for me, it's been extremely productive. I'm losing money, but the thing is, I'm prepared. I've been prepared for that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So
hey, one more thing.
Yeah.
I just jotted it down on a note. I've mentioned that I'm prepared for it. And if you have been, think about good citizens shouldn't be punished for not being prepared prior to a crisis incident.
Right.
They should look back on it and make those changes though. You don't want this to bite you in the ass again. But if you're able to, this is a great time to be charitable, to help those families out. Like the Boys and Girls Club in my county have a donation program, and they make sure that kids get fed, man.
Right.
So, if you get that relief check and you have available funds, use some of that to help people out.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that are hurting during this, man. And I feel for them.
Yeah. If, like we used to say back in the church days, if you hang on to that money, it's the most it'll ever be.
Yeah, right.
You sowed into that field, it's the least it'll ever be.
Mm.
And, you got to look at that as finances seed, man. And, of course, you don't want to just give it to people that, are not proven to do something good with it, but you can do a little research and find some, like the food bank. I mean, we're all watching on the news. The car is backed up. There are people who worked for the food bank who are in line at the food bank.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So people are definitely suffering. And, it's hard, Mac, to determine, how this thing is going to play out, because obviously each state is different.
Mm-hmm.
You got more draconian measures maybe in New York City or LA and Chicago than maybe we have out here in the Carolinas. Kind of depends on what your governor is. But that's another issue, and we should probably speak to this, which is a new precedent being set for government extension here for, because again, it's like the precedent is now set. They can shut down for any reason. Doesn't have to be necessarily a virus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. No, it's good. It's good food for thought. And I think it will. Yes.
So so that being the case, I think we still have a doctrine here that we have to work out. And I was talking to Lizzie last night and talking about, again, this thing that I keep promising we're going to mention and what that is going to look like and how it's going to work and whatever, and looking at the different giftings that you and I have. And I said, no matter what I do, I said, one of the big contributions that I try to make is the philosophical, which means no matter what you do it for the purpose greater than yourself, right? So there's always a larger purpose here. We want to work on the details of how to be prepared, how to have a stronger relationship, how to be healthier, how to build a business, all of the how-to stuff we're always going to teach, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not just individualism. In other words, in the sense, or atomistic, that you're absent from a community, separated from a culture, a social order, a country, right? We want to preserve certain liberties. And the thing that people don't understand is that because they've been raised under such big government, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter. This is big government. Compare this to 1776. This is massive government. But when that's what you've been raised in, all the political debates are about just who's the manager. Politics is arguing over who's the general manager at your local McDonald's.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But the foundations of liberty and freedom themselves are always going to be self-government. So everything that we're talking about, whether it's preparation or whatever, are just further examples of personal responsibility. They're further examples of self-government, because if you don't govern yourself, someone else has to.
Yep.
Right? That's what you're raising. I mean, what's the purpose of raising kids? Self-government. Mm-hmm. Right? Otherwise, you are the perpetual parent.
Right.
So you want to get that kid to the place where they are governing their own lives. And that's, when I would used to teach on parenting, I would talk about, when parenting becomes too heavy-handed. And so in Christianese, I would use the term spirit, which means my spirit, meaning that part of me that is not subject just to personality, that part of me that is principle-based, from where my ethic comes from, my belief about that theft is wrong and it's good to promote life and it's good to love and serve others. That's not coming from my head that also knows math. That's coming from my heart, my spirit. So that's authoritative. And so that's what I want to instill into my kids, those principles, not algebra,
Right. Yeah.
Because we need good people more than we need smart people. So,
yep.
So I would raise my kids, but because they're essentially operating no different than a dog, driven by desire, I have to oversee. So my spirit oversees their little mind and emotions and will and bodies. But the point is that I'm doing it based on principle, to where if they can get to the place where they can apply the principles themselves, that would be self-government, which means I digress. I pull away. I take the umbrella off.
Yep.
But what overbearing parents do is they keep that umbrella there constantly, even though the kid is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Short leash.
Right? So it's all about preparing generations and generations for self-government. One of the things that Mac had mentioned to me the other day was, just how many young people reach out to him. You know what I mean? To where you realize that, hey, dude, your message is not just for guys just like you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not just even guys on the gun range. It's young guys going into the military. It's grandfathers, right? You tell me a story of somebody. How old were they? They ran into you.
I don't know, like 80, late 70s.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a big fan. I'm like, damn, bro, right on. Cool.
Yeah.
My demographic is wide.
It is wide, which is, why I think this podcast has done as well as it's done, because of the fact that you and I are just from different sides of the street. It doesn't get pigeonholed into just another discussion about guns or
do push-ups.
Yeah.
Be motivated. Reach down. Grab a pair.
Yeah, get up there and hustle, man. Hustle every day. We're not going to talk about that. Hustle is just a byproduct. To me, that's a byproduct of worldview, that I have a responsibility to maximize all that I am and all that I can do for a purpose greater than myself. The only way to realize everything that I could possibly realize about myself is by work. Whether that work is physical, intellectual, spiritual, or what have you. Work is what proves us. Work is what tests our mettle. Work is what reveals things. Time and patience, time and pressure, that'll create mountains. What will that do for your life once you understand that that's the concept, that most of life is lived in the meantime. Most of life is a tyranny of the mundane. It's the mundanacity of doing the same things day in and day out, motivated exclusively by the fact that you're doing it for this larger purpose. You're fulfilling that sacred duty that you have to yourself to maximize your life. And you know that life is now working out because you're working out what you've already worked in. You've invested in yourself. This goes back to Mac, to what you said about this as being the opportune time for self-improvement. Now, for you, when Mac says that, he's not talking about just getting up and reading a self-help book. He's talking about like washing his windows.
Yeah, right. Yeah, really. Yeah, all of the things.
Tell me, talk a little bit about that, Mac. You're excited, not because, people can misunderstand what we're saying, because they might see your little pointillism, his beautiful pointillism drawings, and think, oh, he's just drawing all day. No. This guy is fixing, repairing. It's all hardcore chores. But Mac, take us into Macosophy for a second and show us the connection between these menial chores and your concept of self-improvement. And how are you so pumped about that?
Well, one of the and I've suggested this to other people who are living in that, mundane. I build a task list, every night. I build a task list of what I want to accomplish tomorrow. What do I want to do tomorrow? Because now you go to bed with purpose and you wake up with that purpose, because you touched on it, but fulfillment is very important right now, to be fulfilled, to have purpose. And so I have that task list and it gives me drive. Wake up in the morning, I see the task list and I go, damn, man, I am so fortunate. I have all this stuff to do, but I wrote it down the day before. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a plan of attack, a scheme of maneuver, then you might fall into just a rut of mundane where you sit on the couch and watch a bunch of TV. But
you've attached a different meaning to what most people dread and put off. Chores, that sort of thing. So when you say you're on Coronacation, it's not because you're sitting around playing guitar and drawing.
Oh, hell no. No. Right. No.
But the majority, you had I think you even mentioned that you haven't even played guitar.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten to the music yet. But I get fired. Like I was fired up. Rebecca was cracking up because I was fired up about, writing on my task list, trim the hedges, clean the windows. Oh man, I haven't cleaned my windows in a year. I cannot wait to attack those windows, put out the glass cleaner and the paper towels the night before and got at those, it sounds stupid, but to me, it was great fulfillment. And the chore they just keep piling up.
Yeah.
Like, you see my yard right now. Oh, it's spectacular. Oh, my yard is glowing. It's fluorescent green, and it's edged and trimmed and manicured. It's like I'm out there clipping it with scissors. But, and then my gardens are going crazy. My chickens are super happy. Yeah, I'm very fortunate to be very, very busy during this.
Well, there's a biblical concept about, we go back to the garden story, and you have man and woman put in this beautiful garden, and they're given this charge of dominion and extension and all of these sorts of things. Very entrepreneurial, right? And so out of that, I just created this phrase that just basically said, your mission in life is to make the world like the garden.
Mm.
So you got to gardenize everything. And women are very, very, very good at that. You go to your typical bachelor's home and there's nothing on the wall. You won't smell any candles. You know what I mean? It's very plain Jane, typical, bachelor's home. But, you go to the home of a married man, and, you're going to walk in and you're going to see beautiful things that he did not pick out.
Right.
And like I think I said on this podcast before, I couldn't spell potpourri until I got married.
Mm-hmm. Designer towels in the bathroom.
Designer towels, yeah. And so all of these things, and the smells and the aromas and the beauty and the whatever, and it's you want to make things. It's a drive in us to want to make things like that Garden of Eden. We want to create our own little, right? We still use the term, my own little Eden, my own little paradise.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all trying to create that. So there should be this drive in us for excellence. So when we say whatever you do, don't suck, that's essentially what we mean. It's not leaving these untied loose ends throughout your life. Your loose ends financially, loose ends with job. You're taking everything taking your relationship for granted. Man, I bet that's been a real eye opener for a lot of people being stuck at home.
Oh yeah.
How have you guys been doing?
Dude, I am very fortunate. So Rebecca's my best friend. I mean, we have that saying, every night is Saturday night, every morning is Monday morning. On this, we've been together 7 years. We haven't had a crossword. And I've been loving life. I was choring out in the backyard. She was reading in the front the other day, and we were separated for like a half an hour. I had to go out to the front because I missed her. It's so pathetic.
I can't call this podcast University of Badassery anymore. It's going to be University of Hallmark.
Yep. We're going to start talking about me picking flowers for her next.
Yeah. But again,
we've been doing good. Yeah. We've been working together. We've been working out together. We've done some hobby stuff together. We built a visible V8. I posted that up online. Mm-hmm. That's like, it's impossible for most couples on the planet to do that.
Right.
To build a visible V8 together.
Yeah.
But we've been doing a lot of stuff together. She'll get lost in a book.
Right.
A lot during this, and that's cool. I'll sit there and do some doodling or whatever, sip on my bourbon.
Yeah.
But we've been
Isn't that nice? Dude, isn't that nice?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's when my real Coronacation kicks in, like 5, 6 every night is when I put everything aside, just like normal days. Right. No more work. Let me chill out. Let me just, numb myself, make a fire in the fire pit, do a little doodling, do a little legal pad work, whatever it is. Let the gears turn and just chill.
Yeah. I think one of the other people that is extremely happy for you being in this Coronacation is me. And I say that for multiple reasons, but, one, because I know what your life is like, and we've talked a lot about that. We've talked about all sorts of things in relation to trying to change these, and the fact that I have worked out of home for so long. Mm-hmm. And I said, boy, if there's anybody who needs more of this kind of lifestyle, it's Mac, because he would just use it so wisely. Mm-hmm. And I know that's kind of a lead off into what I'd love to talk to you about and kind of let the listeners on what we're moving forward with is, again, when we mentioned earlier that Mac, back in 2018 said, I'm going to slow down. 2019, he was just as busy.
Yep.
At the end of 2019, he's just saying, dude, I don't know how much I can, keep this pace up. It's too much for anybody. And he has so much more that he can do, and to not just earn a living, but also that there's a shift that's going to happen, that needs to happen for Mac, because as someone who's close to him, but still, can look at him from an objective standard, I see where there's so much more he can do, because mass communication is my gig. You know what I mean? And I know when a cat needs to be communicating at a whole nother level. So he just doesn't need to be talking to 12 guys in a range. He'll still do that sort of thing, but that can't be his livelihood. He needs to talk to 12,000, 120,000, etc. So by the end of 2019, he and I were talking about doing some things that were going to be more online based. And as we kicked around the idea, I remember saying to him on a couple of occasions, I said, dude, the only challenge is going to be your schedule. That's going to be the only challenge, because how long are you going to be in town, and the work that's going to be needed to, help create this thing from your end? I mean, how much time could you possibly give to it? Because we're going to blink an eye and you got to be back on a plane again, or you got to do something else. You got all this sort of stuff. So out of the blue comes the coronavirus. And suddenly Mac is at home. And you got to understand, I mean, I even posted a video from Rambo talking about the challenge that it is to get a podcast date nailed down between the two of us. And it was, Covey leader trying to get a hold of Raven out in the cave, So here we are now during this time. And so we both realized, well, okay, it's time to move forward with this. And what I'm talking about is something that he and I have been talking about for about a couple of years now. And it's something that I've done a lot of myself. And we're going to do it now, working through Mac and with his information, his experience, his knowledge. Of course, I'm going to help in all of this, but it's primarily based on Mac and his audience. But it will be something called the Keep the Blaze Alive Coaching Squad. The Keep the Blaze Alive Coaching Squad. Pat Mac's Keep the Blaze Alive Coaching Squad. And this is going to be an online based thing. And we are launching this. This is launching this month. So as I say this, this podcast will actually land here in a day or so. And you guys will be going to Patreon account. You'll be going to patreon.com/coaching squad. And this is going to be Mac's online coaching community. We say, what does that mean? Well, it's going to be again, this is a paid subscription. We'll have different levels. We'll have tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1. For those of you who are new to Mac's world, you may not understand why it's not the opposite way. Mac is from a tier 1 unit, which means tier 1 is the elite. So we're going to have 3 different levels of access: tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1. There are different levels of payment as well, but it's going to be video-based and community-based. So if, it's difficult for Mac to spend a whole lot of time with everybody one-on-one, no matter what. You're lucky to get horns.
Yeah. I try to get to him,
Yeah. But so if this is going to be a situation where Mac is going to be in a private community. So we're dealing with a lot less people, and this is paid access. So Mac is going to be willing to take a whole lot more time working with people. Of course, again, I'll be there to help facilitate and administrate all of this. But the goal is to give people closer access to Mac, not just personally. Okay, it's because we're not going to be wiping noses and any of that other bullshit, right? This is coaching. You don't wipe noses on the football field, right? You either do what you got to do or you're out. Just like Mac has described previously on this podcast about his years in Special Forces, you're under scrutiny every day. So you got to own up with your responsibility day in and day out. But this is going to be video-based. And so Mac, kind of give them an idea of, it's like people love basic dude stuff. They love Sentinel. Well, imagine if those 45-second videos just got unpacked.
Right. Yeah. So we'll populate it with a lot of that, with Sunday Sentinel sermon stuff, home preparedness, vehicle preparedness, first aid, all that stuff. But a lot of basic dude clips as well, but instead of a 1 or a 59-second vid, it'll be more extensive. Like, hey, these are the knots you should be able to tie, for instance, and here is how. So here's how you tie a bowl in the easiest way. This is 7 seconds to tie this bowl. This is a square knot, and this is why you need to know this. I mean, that's an example, the knot thing, but all of the basic dude stuff will go into depth. People want to know about, for instance, there's a lot of interest on IG. Hey, show me more of your 1965 GTO, which I've named her Charlotte. And, for a minute video, it's just not long enough for IG. And I could put it up on YouTube, but I want it to be more personal. I want to talk to the guys who are interested in that. So, I'll do a complete walk around of that thing. I'm even thinking about doing a couple drawing classes on there, stuff like that.
Yep.
But I want to leave it up to the audience too. I want what I want is ideas from those who sign up. Hey, can you talk about this or can you show me that? And now, granted, I'm just some guy. And, for the audience out there, none of us are smarter than any of us. I'm a master at nothing, but I'm a jack of all trades, master at none. I could do all of the things, but I'm not claiming to be a professional at all these things, but I would definitely give it my best shot, and I'd keep it interesting, and the vids would be full of attitude, and they won't be boring. That's for damn sure, bro. You won't be watching freaking, a 30-minute video of somebody stammering through an idea, and they get to the point and during the last 30 seconds of it.
Yeah.
Won't be any of that crap.
No, and I think what people have to understand, and this is where I come in and kind of, put the makeup on things, because I really want people to be envisioned. There's been a couple of people who, when I mention this thing online, they're like, I'm not going to pay for that. I can get it for free on whatever. I said, well, you're a socialist.
Mm-hmm.
You're an absolute socialist. And they're, of course, they're Second Amendment, freedom loving, got American flags on their face. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, because you are completely in support of the free distribution of my intellectual wealth.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? You're so generous with my time. You're so generous with my experience. It's like people who say, I'm not going to pay $20 for a book. Oh, really? Someone who spent 35 years on a subject, and they write a book about it, and you're not going to exchange $20 for 35 years of experience. You're a dumbass.
Yep.
So here's the larger vision at stake here, is that you guys can see with what's happening right now with this virus, the overextension of something like government. Now, that's fine, maybe, if the guy's wearing a red tie, you're not too worried about it. What happens when the tie color changes? But the same powers are in place. That's why the impeachment thing was such a ridiculous deal, because now it's going to become now it's a precedent. It's now a political weapon. You can undo elections that way. Whether right or wrong, I don't give a damn. It's the precedence that you're setting for a bureaucracy, and it is the interest of a bureaucracy to maintain its power. Politics will never, the state will never reduce itself. You cannot get less government by politics. It's not in the interest of politicians to do that. Walk around Washington, D.C. sometime and walk by the Department of this and Department of that and hit those concrete marble walls and tell me they're going to shut this down. No, they're not shutting that down. It grows. It grows. Therefore, to change the world, you've ultimately got to change people, which means we have now the greatest tool, which is the internet, to educate people, And so with Mac and I, if anybody appreciates anything about the messages that we basically preach, it is about a different kind of person, right? Why basic dude stuff? Well, because it's been lost, right? It used to not be the case. Basic dude stuff maybe 80 years ago might not have marketed too well.
Right.
Right. So it's
all the dudes were basic dudes back then.
Everybody was basic dudes back then. So now it's different. Okay. And in a tier 1 special forces unit, Mac is not some unique voice by talking about Sentinel type principles. He's a unique voice amongst us ignorant citizenry, that Sentinel becomes a unique voice. Therefore, this is more than just you learning how to make scrambled eggs like Mac does. This is about a different kind of person. This is about a different kind of world. This is using the power of media at our disposal to literally change the world. So your financial investment, meager as it will be, I guarantee you that, you spend more on pizza than you'll spend on this. But meager as it is, It is worth the investment for yourself, but do it for the sake of others, because you're helping this. It's almost like it was Peter Drucker who defined nonprofit organization as your product is a changed life. Even though we're not setting up a 501c3 nonprofit organization, that's our end product. Our end product off our assembly line is a changed life. And then that trickles down, right? That affects the spouse, that affects the kids, that affects friends and family. And then those guys, like I always tell people for years as the Metal Motivator, I said, listen, I'm not the only Metal Motivator. I'm just the prototype.
Right.
You go be a Metal Motivator wherever your high tops take you. You know what I mean? In your sphere of influence, you be that firebrand, or as what did Jamie Josta Hatebreed saying, become the fuse.
Yep. Right.
Right. You become the fuse where you are. And so, so in a sense, it's the University of Badassery. The Keep the Blaze Alive coaching squad is the University of Badassery in its ultimate form. But because Mac is so diverse, because everything is coming from this broad perspective, call it Renaissance, if you will. Yeah, I mean, Mac is not a braggart. Mac is not a boastful man. Mac does not talk about himself in that way. So I'll talk about him that way. I'll tell you what you're going to get, you will not get somewhere else. And I haven't even gotten to my contribution, man. That's the icing on the cake. You get full bore, high octane, unfiltered metal motivation. And so we're going to be having all kinds of stuff that will contribute. In fact, we're going to get into some of the other areas of my specialty, which get into business building. And so a lot of people right now are scrambling, trying to create extra income in online businesses. So Mac and I, we're going to talk about that sort of stuff. We're going to talk about how we do social media. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about all kinds of crap, creative ideas, about how you can change your life at every single. We're not isolating this just to guns or weights or anything like that. Mac, in a private conversation we had recently, he was saying, dude, I'm even going to get into relationships.
Right.
And we've learned, both Mac and I come from kind of similar background as far as the marriage thing goes, where we've learned a million things to do and a million things not to do. And so out of pain comes a lot of great wisdom and experience. So again, it'll be 3 levels. It'll be paid access. You want to learn more about it, you can go to Patreon. That's Patreon, patreon.com/coaching squad. And Mac, you're going to be the squadron leader.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. Love it. One of the things I want to bring up, it's, we've been talking about this for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it just so happens this is a good time to launch because we have the time and because a lot of people have access to interwebs and they have some time as well. So by no means is this like exploitation, because I've been hit up by dudes who, want to market a certain thing during this. And I look at that and I go, man, that is absolute freaking exploitation right there, and I would feel horrible about it. This I feel good about.
Yeah.
Plus it's dirt cheap. So
it's dirt cheap. And here's the thing, guys, is it's important to me, and I'm going to be an advocate for this because Mac's never going to say this himself. I personally believe that Mac was chosen by the metal gods for the season that he's now in. There's a Bible verse when the prophet said, "Did we not come to this time for a season such as this?" And King David said, "Is there not a cause?" when it comes to looking for a motive for doing things. And I believe that nothing that Mac is doing right now on social media was planned. This is not something that was not a part of his 5-year plan. He left the military for personal reasons and got a corporate gig. That went south. He was out on his own. He decided to try out on his own. It turned out well, doing courses, and then only jumped on social media because someone was impersonating him on Facebook.
That's right.
And the next thing
that wasn't too long ago.
The next thing you know, he's this international, social media celebrity. This was not his plan, ladies and gentlemen. It was not his plan at all. That's why this is Providence paving the way to the goal for him. And as I'm like Rafiki from The Lion King. Remember the monkey?
Yeah.
That's the prophet, right? Who comes around speaking in riddles and knocks you on the head and says, remember who you are. So I'm the one who comes alongside to help. I'm the one who comes alongside in this regard and say, I want you to understand, who this is. And Mac, and I mean this in all sincerity, Mac has a calling. He has a mission, and it will be now shifting into greater and greater influence and communication. He is an influencer. He is a thought leader. He's a role model for a lot of people. And so that means there needs to be some means of doing this. And this is our way of trying to take this huge market that he's already reached that they're just taking dips and little sips of things from his trough. This is now sitting down at the table with him and eating with him, eating with us. And once you see some of the different levels of membership in this thing, you may be attracted to the higher levels because with the tier 1 level access, the benefits there are going to be the most personal that we can do. And I think that's an important thing for people to recognize, is because this is not just a creative idea to do because teaching firearms is less lucrative. No, like you said, we've been planning this for 2 years. This is something that I've done online for umpteen years. So this is a model that I brought to Mac, and Mac was like, yeah, dude, I'll do that. I will definitely do that. Help me with the little technocratics and we'll knock this out. And so, I've got to say again, in all honesty, that everybody should be in full support of Mac embracing this aspect of his life and not having to jump on planes every day. Cause I'll see these comments all the, hey, come to here. Hey, come out to here. Oh yeah. Again, everybody's generous with your time, your energy, your body, your money, your everything. They freely distribute.
Yep.
No problem at all. Oh yeah. You fly out and come see me. I'm not making any effort to come see you, but you just come out and fly. One of the most honoring things that I ever experienced, Mac, was back in 2013. I was brought in at the last minute for a big heavy metal festival up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And David Brocky, who died now, but he was the lead singer from Gore.
Yep.
Yeah. So he was going to speak at this event. So he had to bug out at the last minute. So they hit me up and said, would you take his place? I said, yeah. So me and my buddy hopped on a plane and we went out there. And so Calgary is like the Texas of Canada, so it's middle Canada and it's north. You know what I mean? It's not right there at the border. It's north. So again, I was kind of a last minute shoe-in, and I did my couple of seminars at this thing, and it was just one after another, different speakers. And there was a young couple, did not even look heavy metal at all. Young couple, man, early 20s. And they didn't, those people, sometimes you speak to a crowd and the people who have the least expression are getting into it the most.
Right.
Right. And so this sweet little young couple comes up to me afterwards and they say, hey, been following you for a long time. We got word through a link somebody else shared, saw it was you. We drove. We weren't even signed up for this event because you had to pay to be there for like 3 days. This concert and expos and seminars and all this stuff. Big thing. And they said, we drove 3.5 hours.
Damn.
And just to hear your 2 talks, and then we're going home. And we paid the day rate just to hear you.
Ooh.
And it's like, wow, and I want people to understand that when it comes to Mac, that there are people out there they're that hungry, and they need something like this. And it's time for Mac to step into more and more of this role. Sure, people say, oh yeah, I saw somebody wrote this on the Facebook page. He needs his own reality show. Well, we've both been pitched by reality show companies, Mac, even more, twice the number that I have. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, okay, for money, whatever. But is that just more of the same? Are we going to turn over to some production company? Everything that now comes out of his mouth now becomes the rights.
Yep, they're intellectual property now.
Yeah, is that what you want Mac to be produced? You want everything that comes out of Mac's mouth, all of his responses to be produced? Is that what you want? Yeah, all that tells me is the coin hasn't dropped yet, and you just don't understand what purpose Mac serves in this particular season. And not everybody's going to recognize it, but for those who do, they're going to sign up for this. And so, again, if you're listening to my voice right now, and I know I've been talking a lot and people hate it when I talk so much, but
I don't.
This is muy importante, mi hermanos, that I want you to go and get on patreon.com/coaching squad, because we're going to roll this out. We would love to have a more complete launch, but we are changing the tire while the car is running down the road right now. And so we just think it's important to get this out now while people are at home, so we can really drop the vision for it, so that moving forward, people will take this into the new season, because very quickly people can get back into the same old habits that they had beforehand that got them into this mess. We don't want that to happen. But so far, Mac, and I don't know if anybody's messaged you or anything, but I've seen the feedback so far. People,
yep, it's been good. Yeah, it's been good. And then, we'll do a couple lives a month, where we're chit-chatting live with the folks. That'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. And one of the things I look forward to is it'll be a new thing for me, sort of. But I like, and I'm good at being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's very nourishing, when you force yourself into that kind of arena. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's hard to explain Mac to people at a personal level, because so many people just see the front end of things. Not that I'm checking out his back end. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I really see what it's like to work with someone, because I'll see this from the church life. People who understand authority, like it used to be like when I would hang out with my best friend for the longest time, who was a senior pastor, and I was at the church. And so when he and I were out hanging out, I called him LT for his first and last initial. LT this and LT that, whatever. But then as soon as we crossed that threshold into that building, he became Pastor so-and-so. And I knew it instinctively. You know what I mean? So you understand jurisdiction. So when I try to explain you to some people, I say, you have to understand, Mac can flow in between. He can assess a situation very fast. And in other words, he does not have to be in charge of everything. So if he knows you're the source of information that he needs, he'll submit himself and say, okay, tell me what I need to do. And then he goes and he does it. Because in this situation, I'm handling so much of the technical aspect. And so I need things from Mac. So all I got to do is say, bro, can you do this, this, and this? He's like, on it. I mean, that's it. On it like saran wrap. There's no long, there's no, I got to work around his ego or something like that. And so that's been a delight for me. And so what I'm excited about, Mac, is just that very fact, is that you like being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And then so you rush headlong, face first into this kind of stuff. And so the beneficiaries are going to be the end users.
Yep.
Those are the people who are going to reap the harvest from this. So that's what we got going on, man. And so this is launching. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Let's see, we've got 2 dates here, the 27th or the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make this decision right now on the podcast.
Yeah, the sooner the better. 27th
is Monday.
So yeah, right.
So that's it. So and we'll get something. Mac will have something for you ready for Monday. And for those who you sign up first, you're the pioneers, man. You're the foundation to all. You can say you were the first. You can say you were there when it started. You're the original members of the squad. You are the original founding members of the squad, and you will help us walk through with feedback and participation. And that's, again, as we really didn't touch on, but the real benefit, besides all the information stuff that we mentioned, is that they're going to meet people they haven't met before that are just like them. Positive, motivated people that are working extremely hard to change their lives. We're not going to put up with negativity.
No.
Haters. Critics. So all the bad things you hate about social media are not going to be in this group. You may meet some of your new best friends.
Right. That social media thing, man, I've been on it more because I have some time, and poo-poo to those who are taking advantage of this time and spreading negativity. I had to delete and block a bunch of people on Facebook, because this type of thing it'll bring out the best in you or the worst in you. And you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And too many people are hell-bent on being part of the problem. So, I don't know. Fuck those people, man.
Yeah, me and Max, because we were talking about possibly running this coaching group on Facebook. That's where I had run mine. And so we were looking for different options. And that was another reason, what we did while we were kind of waiting for a good opportunity to do this was looking at some of the different software options that we had. And Patreon is just something I think a lot of people understand. Of course, we can, bring more of your YouTube audience, which understands Patreon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But in the end, one of the things that was weighing on my mind was Mac's experience on Facebook. So
yeah, man.
I didn't want to put that. So I said, we finally decided to put a fist in the Facebook and go with Patreon. So that's going to take a little bit of effort, but you can download the Patreon app. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously a lot of people are on Facebook, so it's easy to access something like a group, but I think, this is going to be a small little effort to have a little Patreon app on your phone or whatever you want to use. And that's the thing is you could do this whole thing from your phone. You have the University of Badassery in your pocket. Mm-hmm. You could be pocket ass dialing University of Badassery on a daily basis. So again, guys, check that out. And again, we'll have more to say as we go in the future. But that's what this podcast is becoming, man. It started out as Metal Excellence, and now it's an extension of the Pat Mac empire and a little bit of Metal Motivation empire. And
yeah, it's been good and it's been fun. And we could do a lot more of this now, depending on how long this lasts. I mean, this is pretty easy. So we could, instead of you driving an hour and a half and we setting everything up, we could.
Yeah, those 7,000 miles on my car.
Yeah, right. Are mostly trips to my place. Yep.
But so now I'll have to go out just to drink.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm excited about that aspect of it. Is that we will get to do more. This is one of the things that I was kind of like, it didn't sound so cool when Mac and I say it to each other that we put these out so few times a year, like every month and a half or so. But when you were on Jocko's podcast recently and you were talking about our podcast at the very end. And so Jocko was like, well, dude, how often are you putting that out?
Yeah.
You go, well, month and a half.
Right.
Here comes from somebody who's got a huge podcast and he's putting it out, obviously, a whole lot more than that. And I remember just saying, man, Mac shouldn't have to say that. But with his schedule and my schedule and being, in the same place at the same time, month and a half is the best you're going to get.
Yep.
But we also don't want to drown you guys in this stuff either. We don't want to become uninteresting, so.
That's impossible. Impossible. Especially when we have this, the Q&As.
Q&A.
Because the Q&As rock.
In fact, that's what I'm looking for right now is my list of Q&A. Okay, so we're going to jump to Q&A right now.
Good. Yeah, there's a couple good ones in here. There's a couple that I could talk to. There's a couple that I'm going to be, brevity.
Yeah. Okay. So
short and sweet.
Let me read this first one. I have an interview for a police job coming up. I can get the job. However, I will be explaining the dumb shit I've done in my past, specifically smoking weed for damn near 20 years, breaking into a convenience store after hours and robbing the cash register. I'm not that guy anymore. And I was wondering how you would articulate that and the fact that I'd like to make up for my less than honorable past. How do you make real world statements to political entities? They operate in the black and white and the rest of the world lives in the gray.
Yeah, I say stick with black and white. Yeah. I mean, just come out with it because that's where they live, in black and white. Now, you can't make light of it. You can't confess to these things that you've done and kind of, chuckle about it. You've got to come out. You got to say, hey, I've done stupid shit in the past. Just be as genuine as possible. Because I've had a couple interviews while I was in the military, and man, they were stressful. And I knew that the questions were going to come. They were not going to be easy, but you got to consider number one is the truth will set you free. Number two is the softest pillow is a clean conscience.
Yeah, true.
And you've got to be ready to accept the ass wound in the event that you are not received well.
Right.
But yeah, man, just come clean with all that stuff and admit that, hey, that was in the past. I am a different person now. I was young, dumb.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And the only thing I guess I would add is you want to be able to say it with confidence. In other words, if you sound too broken and self-deprecating, they're going to say, when did this happen? 2 months ago? If it really was the end result of the past, then think almost of the way the Morgan Freeman and his final parole meeting at the towards the end of
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Just like, yeah.
You go ahead and stamp your form, Sonny.
Yeah. So in other words, look at it objectively with confidence and speak with confidence. Say, I'm not that person anymore. And I'm here because I have but talk about your passion for what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That you feel like that this is how you're going to make up for that. You want to make amends. You want to make amends at the most amount, and they'll respect that. They'll respect passion. So that's the counsel we would give. Question number 2. Big fan of the podcast. My friends and I were discussing this today, and I thought it would be a great topic for the podcast. 5-finger death punch. See, they sound like us talking about this stuff. 5-finger death punch seems to me like it's becoming the Nickelback of metal. Everyone will listen to them, but no one really wants to admit it. Do y'all see this as a trend? And if so, why do you think that it is? Mac, I'll let you go first.
You know, it's funny. So a couple years back, I flew out to California to meet Jose Mangan, who's the host of Liquid Metal. And when he pulled up in the parking lot, because of social media, and we've been chatting with each other for so long, it's like we knew each other forever.
Yeah.
And he pulls up in this parking lot at a gun range because I gave him a little class. And I've got my playlist jamming, my rental car just thumping. And at the time, it was a song called Holy Roller by a band called Throwdown. And Jose pulls up and he goes, oh, this is, and you know, I was stumping the metal freaking ambassador.
Right.
And so we start chatting, another song comes on, and then 5-Finger Death Punch comes on. And he goes, oh yeah, I've got some 5-Finger on my playlist too. So he admitted it, you know, right. But I like, now I wouldn't call them metal, number one. They're a great freaking hard rock band, and another couple more that are in that category. And I'm not afraid of admitting these. Another a band called Shinedown.
Yeah.
My wife loves them, and when she listens to them, I go, "Damn, man, this is good songwriting. It's not metal, you know, or Avenged Sevenfold. You know, I want to be Metallica, or like that Metallica Light. They sound freaking great. They obviously know what they're doing." And I'm told that a lot of these bands perform well live too. So me personally, I ain't afraid of admitting that I listen to them. You know, not at all.
Yeah. Mine would be I love the first album because it was unique.
Yep.
You know. Now the second album I liked, but then that was the end. It's just like by the time Theater of Pain came out, I was done with Motley Crue.
Right.
Once I saw Dressed in Pink and sequins and all that kind of crap, I was already, you know, ears deep into Merciful Fate and Slayer and all of that. So that was done. It was glam. It was the glam versus thrash thing. So I liked the first 2 albums. Plus, the first 2 albums had Daryl Roberts on guitar before Jason Hook, and Daryl used to play in Wasp. So I was like, okay, this is more, you know, a heavier kind of band. And Zoltan's a gun guy. You know, big time gun guy, and so he's friendly to that market. But that was it for me. You know, after that second, I was because then for me it became formulaic. You know, and it started to get somewhat repetitive. But even though repetitive, that is no slight on someone's ability to write music, because obviously it has a mass appeal, and it can't have a mass appeal if it, from a musical standpoint, sucks. You know what I mean? I mean, a song is a good song. I may not like certain things, but they're obviously good songs because they're getting good airplay. But it's just not going to be, you know, necessarily on my playlist. And I couldn't name a Nickelback song. The only Nickelback song, or closest thing I could name to a Nickelback song is the song "It Won't Suck Itself" by Steel Panther, where what's his name does a cameo appearance, the singer from Nickelback. That's the only Nickelback I know is Steel Panther, bro.
I couldn't tell you a single. I wouldn't recognize one.
I wouldn't
if they were playing right now.
I know they get all the crap, but the vocals I heard on that was, I mean, great vocals. So again, there got to be good bands to have that kind of appeal. But you know what? Hey, I'm glad that there's a Nickelback and a 5-Finger Death Punch out there keeping rock and roll alive. I'm glad they're not just more electronic music or what have you. You know what I mean?
Because they're all gateway bands too. You know, they've got a lot of appeal. You know, they don't have appeal to the metalheads necessarily, but they've got appeal to the rock and roll. You know, whatever generation of rock and roll is still left.
Right.
And it's kind of like dad rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, when your typical dad wants to be a tough guy metalhead, he's going to listen to some Shinedown and Five Finger, and there's a bunch of bands, Disturbed, you know, which I listen to all those. I think they're all good, but it's not on my freaking workout playlist.
I always tend to look the earlier stuff. They're just not bands that I'll follow, you know, after that.
Right.
It has to be full on metal in order for me to follow a band.
Right.
Which I don't know why this just brought this to mind, but have you seen the Geico commercial with Rat? You know,
No.
There's a Geico commercial. So the people are saying, we have a rat problem in our house.
No kidding. Is this a new one?
Yeah, there's a rat playing in their
Oh, man.
We saw that other one. There was a I don't know, one of the insurance company commercials, and they were playing Breaking the Law.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm afraid our classic stuff is becoming dad rock now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 3. I have another question about minimums, considering the idea of the combat chassis. Of course, we always strive for more and better. But what would be a good minimum body fat percentage to strive for? 3% is very hard. 25% is too much.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. We're all built differently. We're all born differently. We all grow up differently. Some people are naturally heavy and they will never, ever be thin. Not to say that's an excuse to become overweight. They're just naturally heavy people. You can see it in their face and their neck.
Right.
You know, I could tell when a guy comes to the range, that guy will never be a rail. No matter how hard he tries, he'll always have, you know, chubby cheeks and just how people are developed. I would just go with healthy body weight or body fat percentage is 15 to 18% or something like that. It's somewhere around there. I know now here's another thing about it. I'm worried that mine is too low. So I've been taking in a little more healthy fats and stuff like that. I mean, because you could grab my skin on my waist and it's like paper.
Yeah.
I mean, so mine is too low. If I were put in a survival situation, because I got asked this by a TV producer, and then I started thinking, dude, I'm not sure I could freaking last this long anymore.
Right.
You know, because I have no residual. I have no backup. Right. You know, my body can't live off of my fats for very long. It's going to start eating away at the muscle. So, yeah, you always want to maintain healthy, because body fat percentage is necessary. We need some of that. It's there for a reason. Too little, you're living in danger. Too much, you're living in danger. But also keep in mind that we're all built differently. You know, that's why I came up with initially the combat chassis thing. Right. Because we're all, a little bit of that combat chassis is subliminal manipulation. If you think of your body, your structure as a combat chassis, then it sounds like a combat chassis. And now you could retrograde that thing. You know, you could retrofit it to make it the best combat chassis, whether it's a 77 Impala or a new sports car. But we're all different.
Yeah, I mean, look at the concept behind the sumo wrestler.
Right.
They're very healthy people.
Yeah.
Extremely strong, but they have all that body fat. So everything gets back to motive, you know. I mean, body fat percentage tends to be what fitness models and or bodybuilders are talking about. So, you know, what's your objective? Is your objective just to have the washboard abs out at the beach? Is that your goal? Or are we talking about something that has an actual functional health aspect to this? And so I think you have to weigh that. You should be in a place, in my opinion, where you should be able to look down and see your shoes. You know what I mean? You should be able to pee and still see that everything's still there. You know what I mean? And that's good, right? That doesn't mean you're like Mac, where you barely got anything to clip onto, but you know, you shouldn't have an abnormal, you know, amount of fat on your body. But again, it does get down to, you know, what your motive is, but also then you got the issue of, you know, what your conception of fat may be. Because fat is not necessarily a bad thing. Like you said, you know, there's a survival aspect. There's people, I mean, fat is calories, right? So look at it that way. How many calories are you carrying around on your body? Because it will go into those fat stores and use the fat for fuel, which means you could probably go for days without eating and your body would, you know, consume that fat once you got fat adapted. Without it, your body's going to go for the muscle because it can convert that into the sugars. But yeah, check your motive though. Number 4, I've never had much interest in hobbies, and Max says he's hobby heavy. Does he think something like that can be developed in someone who isn't into hobbies? He makes it look like a blast.
And that's a tough one because I'm not really sure. I think it all depends on your interest in being interested.
That's a good way to say
And
it.
yeah, and your ability to pay attention for an extended period of time. Because when you're learning something new, let's say a hobby, man, it can be an absolute drag if you suck the first 4 times where you're not getting it.
Right.
Like, let's say playing an instrument, I'm not getting it. It's very easy just to put it aside. So, if you pick something up, let's say an instrument, you've got to give it your best effort. You've got to stay on it and see some kind of improvement. I always say start small with a hobby. For instance, I don't know if this is a hobby or not, but it's great brain food as I'm sitting here looking at my chessboard. I think every house should be equipped with a chessboard
Got one.
because, yeah, I mean, and you teach your kids young to play chess. If you don't know how, just look it up online. This is a chessboard. This is how you set it up. Here's some of the freaking basic rules. Man, that is great brain food. Man,
Yep.
when you start, because initially you're looking through a straw. You're living 6 inches in front of your face when you start playing.
Right.
But you get into it, even for a beginner, you're thinking 3 moves ahead.
Right.
And when you start thinking 3 moves ahead, everything in life becomes 3 moves ahead.
Yeah.
You're driving to the supermarket, you're thinking 3 moves ahead. Life becomes a chess match.
Right.
And it just becomes a way of life now. I mean, that's a hobby that's very productive. Drawing is another one, and most people suck at sketching. Suck at it. But if all you could draw is a stick figure, well, draw a stick figure.
Right.
And if you can't do that, relearn to write. Because Rebecca and I were doing this last week. We were writing in cursive.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing that last week. So just writing in cursive is a great way to exercise your brain, and writing is a hobby. The ability to put pen to paper and make it legible, and that could even be block printing. I'm not even talking calligraphy, which I love to do too. I love to do drawing calligraphy. And then if you want to challenge yourself, do it left-handed. Talk about brain food, man. But there's a lot of hobbies that are easy and can be productive, like photography.
Right.
Photography is a great one. Most of us don't even own a camera anymore because they're on our phone.
Right.
But basic photography is great because you have to think. And I'm talking basic photography. I'm not talking getting an SLR that does everything for you, but put it on manual. And a lot of you probably have them sitting at home.
Right.
An SLR camera, even if it's digital, and you just put it on manual or program. I mean, you put it on program or auto and let the camera work for you. Well, put that sucker on manual, figure out your aperture, your f-stop, your shutter speed and all that. And now you've got a hobby, and it's not like you're wasting, because I learned when it was film.
Right.
So, those 24 exposures were, man, you were paying attention.
Yep.
Because shit costs money. Now you could do 1,000 freaking test snaps and it's going to cost you nothing.
Right.
So that's an easy hobby, and you probably have an SLR at home. It's just never been on the manual setting. Right. But yeah, I think that for somebody, because a lot of people, they look at mine and it's artsy fartsy. It's drawing, it's gardening, and it's music, stuff like that. But there's a lot of them that require deep thought, math, like chess, photography, and we could all pick them up, and they could be productive because they're productive for your brain. It's all brain food.
Yeah, here's what I would add is that I think you can acquire a taste for anything. Much the same as nobody comes out of the womb with a hankering for beer. You at some point, whether you're 11 or 12 or whatever, and you and your friends stole a beer from the refrigerator of somebody's house, and you start slamming that beer. It didn't taste great at first time, but you kept forcing it down until you acquired a taste for it. You know what I mean? And now that it's an acquired taste, you desire it more than you desire a Coca-Cola, or at least I do, right? I'd rather have a beer than a soft drink. I'd rather have a beer pretty much than any other kind of drink outside of water, right? So but as a kid, I couldn't imagine that. My daughter doesn't want to drink that beer. She tastes it. She doesn't want nothing to do with that. She does not care for the taste of beer. So that is a acquired taste. But the reason for it being an acquired taste when you were young was peer pressure. which means pressure from the outside can create an acquired taste for something you haven't done before. So what kind of pressure can you put on yourself to get you to try some hobbies like drinking a beer? So that means you're not going to get your acquired taste on the first day playing around with this new hobby, just like you didn't get an acquired taste on that first beer. It may take you a little bit, but so long as you understand that you're acquiring a taste for it to adapt this new type of hobby to your life, then you can acquire a taste for it. So you just need that positive peer pressure. The positive peer pressure would be, what is the reason that you feel like a hobby would be a great addition to your life? Do you understand the life value, for example, that Mac is driven by when it comes to to him, it's as close, right, Mac? Hobbies are as close to you as your own nose.
Yep.
It's, you know what I mean? So you're not thinking about it like that. It's just the
No.
natural outgrowth of who you are. You're going to do it without any conscious
Right.
thought. You're just driven to it.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, they're going to have to say, okay, well, I've got to be a little bit more mechanical about this. I've got to understand what the true value is about acquiring a hobby and why hobbies are good. It is a form of adult play. It's therapeutic as hell. I'm sure you saw it too. Brad Halling was at the sewing machine.
Yeah, right.
Recently. So he was talking about in the caption about how he had, acquired the skill of working the sewing machine from guys who would work on the parachutes, right? Back in the Army. So I just wrote on there, I said, dude, I love work like that. Very therapeutic. Like pointillism, I used to do that like you do as a kid. Anything that's like tedious like that somebody would say, oh, I can't do that. I get lost. You know what I mean? And you kind of cramp up and stuff, but you keep going because there's something about the therapy. Just like sometimes some of my most creative thinking is if I'm mowing grass, vacuuming,
big time,
washing dishes, So yeah, I would look at the positive peer pressure there and utilize it that way. And yeah,
Great.
and it will be a blast, just like Mac is having a blast. Number 5, how does Mac maintain his cool dealing with dumb questions like this one?
I get a lot of them. Believe it or not. No, I'm sure you believe it.
Yeah.
Now, my tolerance level for the dumb questions has gone down quite a bit. I have a very low tolerance for the dumb ones, and the ones that are shrill. My number one rule is don't exacerbate the situation. The angrier or more shrill they are, the cooler I am, because I realize that this is somebody who's unhappy.
Yeah.
So I am not going to exacerbate this because I am not going to be able to change their mind. It's like being an ideologue in politics. There's no freaking way I'm going to be able to change your mind.
Right.
I don't have a magic mind wand changer, and I'm not going to, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So I've been really good at tolerating. I used to answer some of the dumb ones, but not anymore. I just go, dumb question. Yeah, they really don't. I've learned through volume to not let them bother me at all. And the shrill ones, because there's ugly comments every once in a while.
Yeah.
I just ignore the hell out of them. They almost make me happy. It's almost like a compliment. If they're shrill and nasty, it's like, well, this guy's either jealous or he's freaking miserable. Yeah. And I am not. I am happy. Yeah. So there's no way I'm going to entertain that. Sometime I do with a thanks. If they're really nasty, right, I give them a thanks. And that's not being a smart ass. That's making him go, well, damn, this didn't bother him at all. Or damn, he took that the wrong way. Or he didn't understand my comment.
Right.
It wasn't supposed to encourage a level of gratitude. It was supposed to hurt his feelings.
Right.
and it's not. I mean, dude, my skin is it's 6 inches thick. I'm not going to get poopy pants. There's no freaking way.
Yeah. Whenever I would write, because I've been doing this a long time, and of course, being the Metal Motivator, you're going to attract some people who want, say whatever they want to say. And so when they do that, I'll write underneath, I'll say, I'm going to give your comment all the attention that it deserves. And that's the only comment I leave.
Right. Perfect. That's great.
You know what I mean? Because they're like, okay, well, we're waiting, and it never comes.
Yep.
I just gave your comment all the attention it deserved. Okay. What's question number 6? What's something about either one of you that most people don't know?
Want me to start this one?
Yes, please.
All right. I despise mushrooms. I love cats. I think that guys who don't love cats have a inferiority complex. I take cream in my coffee. My middle name is Arthur. Therefore, my initials are P-A-M, Pam. I love spicy food, but an hour later, it goes right through me in fiery poops. When I groom, I wax my nostrils, and I never park in veterans' parking spots. Bam.
How do you know that it's a veterans parking spot?
Because it's got a big sign, veterans parking.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess
Yep,
so. Your neighborhood does.
Yeah. Like there's a bunch of stores and different stuff that'll have veterans parking, and I'm like, ugh, I would feel like such a tool, if I parked there.
Yeah.
But I'll go and there'll be some young cats parking in the veteran park. And I'm like, reserve that shit for like these Korean war vets and Vietnam guys who are in their 70s, and get out of there. You don't need that, bro. What are you doing? Just tooting your horn, being a professional vet? Ugh, I hate professional vets.
Yeah, if I had to say what's one thing that most people don't know about me, it would be that I'm a fan of Nickelback. No. Yeah, I should have done it the way Mac did it, because I think it's a great way to do it. It's a whole, but I'm trying to think of like one thing instead of a whole laundry list of things. Well, now it's like, oh, damn, now I got to rethink this. Yeah, I'm a middle child, and that did affect me. I think I'm 7 feet tall, and I'm not. I believe in the innate goodness of people, because it's tough sometimes when you're being the Metal Motivator, because people think everything is a critique, or you're kind of, me against the world and dealing with haters. And that's kind of the tone of everything. Everybody who talks on social media is, deal with the haters, that you're proving something based on showing everybody who doubted you. I could give a damn about whether anyone ever doubted me or not. But I pretty much think that the world is a good place, and I think that people are going to, become something great, and that's the reason why I do what I do. But yeah, for the most part, what most people don't know is that I'm a middle child, and that it took 2 years of summer school to get me out of high school.
Damn. All right.
Yep. So I was not. People always they'll think, oh, so where'd you go? I eventually later went into a art program to get a degree in visual communications, but no, I did not get the cap and gown. I disappointed my mother and father greatly. I was rebellious as hell, and people tend to think I followed all the rules and all of that, but no, I did not. I was a hellion,
right
man.
On. That's good.
Okay, so number 7, what do you guys think about events like concerts now? They're saying that they may not come back until 2021.
Yeah. I don't have much on this one. I think that I would pay to watch a band live on my computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Doing it like out of their home and knowing, all right, this is live, right?
Right.
I don't want to watch it recorded. I want to watch it live.
Yeah.
I want to see you screw up if not, I'm not sure how to answer that. It'll be a bummer, but I think that's true. They might not. We might.
Yeah,
not
I heard.
what's
his name? Something Zeke Manuel or something. He was saying that he doesn't see anything happening until fall of. That's his recommendation, I guess. Fall of 2021. But I don't know. Obviously, local venues and stuff are going to have to operate a lot quicker than that. But I don't know, man. I do think this is going to affect everybody, but in another sense, I think things will come back to center to a large degree. People will obviously be a whole lot more careful than they have been in the past, but you get used to it, man. You just get used to that. Number 8, what's the most important things to start teaching my kids? This question obviously from Mac, about being sentinels themselves, or, more aware.
They're one and the same. That's the answer. Teach them to be more aware. That is being sentinel. That's what a sentinel does. He's aware. He's on guard, on watch out. He's got 100% security, and he's looking around. So when my kiddies were little kids love it. It's like a game for them. And they loved the fact that I would test them on stuff. For instance, I always use Walmart parking lot, the epicenter for disaster planning is my kind of, I always use that one. So we pull into the Walmart parking lot, and I'd say, look around, see where we're parked. And I'm talking, they were, let's say between 6 and 8 to 8 and 10. When they were that age, they were into this stuff. And then when we get out of the car, I would say heads on a swivel.
Yep.
And they'd look around, left and right. And then we'd get to the door of the Walmart and I'd say, look back to see where our car is. Yep, I see it. All right, good. When we go into the Walmart, I love using the Walmart as a, like an analogy or the epicenter there.
Right.
But it'll fit for any venue. When we get into the guts, I would say, okay, this is where, if we separate, this is where we're going to meet. You get into it. So what those are they're en route rally points, military terms. So we get to another point deeper into the guts. If we get separated, this is where we'll meet, and there's a structure or a big case of rubber balls or whatever it is, something recognizable. And further into the guts, I'd say, hey, if we got in trouble right now, how would we get out of here? Where is an emergency exit? And they'd snap their heads left and right. And they'd say, oh, there's an emergency exit right there.
Right.
It's awesome. And then I test them even further. If this is a tough one, let's say you're in Walmart. If we needed to go out of that emergency door, which direction, left or right, would we have to turn to get to our car?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that and like James was on it. Boom. We'd have to go right. I was like, bingo. Yeah, perfect. He'd always be on that stuff. And then another one, as we're checking out and we leave, I'll say something like, what was the girl's name who was working the cash register? Because they wear name tags.
Right.
And I don't know. But the next time we did it, they were looking at all that stuff. There's an emergency exit.
It's kind of intelligence training.
Yeah, it's like Kim's game, sort of,
Yeah.
So for them, it was fun. It wasn't a chore. I wasn't, I didn't have them on a short leash. I wasn't telling them they have to do this stuff. They didn't even know why they were doing it. It was a game and they liked doing it, but it was making them more situationally aware. And it became habit after that. When we go, like, one of the places that scared me was like the North Carolina State Fair when they were little kids.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people, there's so many noises, and their heads are just going back and forth looking at all the candied apples and the rides and the pigs and all that stuff. And it's easy to get separated in a place like that. But we had made that a way of life. So they became more situationally aware. And there were certain rules, like in the Sentinel book, I would say, hey, if we get separated, and I'd give them a safe pocket. They'd have my business card in their back pocket. If we get separated, find a policeman or a guard, somebody in uniform. If not, find a mom. I would tell them.
Yeah. That's great. That's
well,
good.
because a mom is going to take care of a kid.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's hers or not. She's going to take care of that kid.
Right.
Find a mom, because that mom's going to become Mama Bear real freaking quick. She's going to guard. She is going to guard that kid like her own. But yeah, so that you answered the question with your question.
That's great.
Make it more aware. That's how you become a sentinel. So more than anything, when people ask, hey, I need to get up my sentinel skills, they're thinking shooting and fighting. I'm thinking number one is that being aware, situational awareness. That's number one. Awareness of your surroundings and your understanding of you being in it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, it's, I'm an outsider to these communities. And, sometimes I wonder why the discussions so often within these communities are, hey, what's your EDC? And which I wouldn't have known what an EDC was. And all of this sort of stuff. And which is better? It's a revolver or semi-automatic and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, don't you have at least 5 layers of situational avoidance before you ever get to pulling a firearm? I mean, isn't that the better thing to be discussing? Or, everybody, okay, I appreciate the clip of the store owner getting caught off guard in Brazil. Okay. But I'm not going to be scared about that, because it's probably not going to be. I've been on the planet 54 years. I've never had a situation where anything ever went to that level. So even if so, then my approach to everything is going to be, diffuse a situation. Don't let things escalate, and a lot of people want to prove their bravado. If they're taking jujitsu all the time and get themselves all tatted up and doing deadlifts all week and going the range all the time, I don't know, bro. That guy's kind of might be looking for trouble sometimes, you know? So I would normally be thinking of things as far as diffusing. What I was not thinking of, which is what the Sentinel had, was that primary thing of awareness in a comprehensive sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking about it when I went necessarily into the restaurant or to the Walmart and the importance. So that changed, that's why I got my kids all got a copy of the book and we talk about it, and when we go into the restaurant, where we're going to sit, backs to what, all this kind of stuff. So to me, you're right. That's sort of the foundation. It's the crux.
Mm-hmm.
It's to teach people awareness, especially our kids. Okay. Last question. Learning. I'm learning to love heavy metal, but it's weirding my wife out. What do I do, dudes? How do I explain it to her?
I some of the things I wrote down is you got to give her that gateway drug. You can't introduce her to Raining Blood. You can't, like something like make her a part of it. Have her listen to Cemetery Gates, by Pantera, or Before the Dawn by Judas Priest, something like that. Yeah. Say, oh man, listen to this guy's vocals. Right. I mean, imagine he's doing this in this song, but dude, this guy can sing, or find a really good, guitar solo that's super clean and you could hear you could hear that guitar singing, but you can't change people's minds. We just had that discussion, but you could ease people into it. I would never, I eased my wife into a couple things. She was already a rock and roller, so it wasn't hard. She's not as metal as I am, even though she's metal.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not going to make her a bourbon drinker either. Right. I'm not going to, but if I have a really good one and I know it's super smooth, I'll go, hey, take just the tiniest sip of this. Right. So just give her the tiniest sip of that metal, not something over the top. You don't want to force a glass on her or I don't know, that's all I could.
No, I think you're right. I think that's the key. The key is getting them the gateway drug. Yep. Songs like that they might even be familiar with that are metal, right, like Enter Sandman or something.
Yes,
like that.
Right.
And so you can also go to look at, you'll find entertaining, which is watch reviews of like hip hop guys reviewing,
good.
Heavy metal. And so look at the songs that really turn them on, because they do Maiden, they do Priest, they do all of those bands. And so
I just watched the new one of those.
Yeah.
The tall black guy.
Oh yeah. He's
Child in Time, Deep Purple.
Oh, well. Yeah. Oh, I love that dude. Yep. But there's stuff that you can, get good ideas for songs to turn on. But the other thing I would say about it, man, is help to show her the reason for this. There's a philosophy to it. There's a reason why me and Mac love heavy metal. And it's not just because of the sound. It's a way to channel. But somebody can experience the same thing if she gets out, goes to a wedding party sometime, and the DJ's playing some old nostalgic music, dance music from the 70s and 80s, and she gets out and a few glasses of champagne in her, and she rages like a Jamaican for the next 2 hours in front of that DJ. Tell her that's what it does. It channels the aggression, it shapes the attitude, it makes you more precise and edgy, and in a good way. It's healthy aggression, right? This is healthy aggression. So and if she doesn't dig it, hey man, she doesn't dig it. She's, like Max said, she's just never going to really be a bourbon drinker. And a lot of guys, they play their metal in the car when they're by themselves. Mm-hmm. Because mama doesn't necessarily want to listen to it. She doesn't necessarily want to listen to the kids. Want that the kids necessarily listen to it. But then again, there's other guys who they're committed, and their kids came out of the womb.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So the kid was 5 years old, he was listening to Pantera. But anyway, all right. So listen, guys, again, patreon.com/coaching squad. Get yourself signed up right away. Pick your level. There's tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1. Read the benefits. We would love to have you be a part of this. More good things coming out. Mac does know, I know this question gets asked a lot, that when are they going to have bands in stock?
Yeah. My supplier tells me the 24th, so that's a Friday. If I get them in that day, I'll put them up that weekend.
Yeah. But they go fast.
Yeah, if not, they'll be the following weekend because I have to put that stuff up on a weekend. Yeah, on a Friday. It's all a fulfillment thing. You know, I have a system in place.
Right, right.
Yeah, they go fast. Yep.
And I see that question probably every day.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's
100
great.
times every day.
It's
Yep.
great. Mac is very grateful for that. And I was just having a conversation with my son Joseph yesterday, and he was talking about the bands. He's talking about how much the bands have just changed and added to his workouts. I love them, dude.
Good.
Every time I train, I use them. Every time I train. So anyway, so much more to learn, Mac. Where can people follow you?
At T-Max Inc. TMACSINC. That's on Instagram. It's on my Facebook, my website. Yeah. T-Max Inc. Yep. All of it.
Yeah, you guys want to follow the podcast? It's at University of Badassery. One thing I failed to mention that we usually do. Well, thank our good buddy Metal Mike for his music in the intro and outro of this show. Some people ask, dude, what music is that from? Metal Mike, his album Metal Worker. So you can always go check that out. To reach me, go to on Instagram at Metal Motivator. Everything else on Facebook, YouTube, and the web is Metal Motivation. So support the show, share it with somebody else, man. And be that fuse wherever you go, man. Wherever your high tops take you. Anyway, this is the University of Badassery. And remember, whatever you do, Mac,
don't suck.
Metal up.